Hello, my name is Emmanuel and today I'll be presenting the prosecution's opening statement. May I begin? You may! Everything comes back around. These are the words which the blinded victim of a kidnapping, Taylor Alexander, had to hear repeatedly from their captor while they were being tied to a chair and drugged in their own Lakeside Drive property on November 11, 2023. Now I want you to remember that statement. Everything comes back around. And I want you to remember it because it's the very same statement that the defendant, Logan Gold, lives by and has turned into their own personal slogan and mantra. That's why we're all here today. Representing the state, we, the prosecution, are here to charge the defendant, Logan Gold, with the kidnapping of Taylor Alexander on the Emerald Bend election day. We are here to prove that Logan Gold, the political opponent of Taylor Alexander, the person who has attested to having animosity for Alexander due to their different goals for Emerald Bend's future, and that the person who has personally stated that they knew if Taylor Alexander won the Emerald Bend election and was allowed to make the changes that they wanted to make, it would run their family business out of business and get them closed down. We're here to ask if the person who said all of those things, if Logan Gold is the one who put a pillowcase over Taylor Alexander's head, stuffed them in the trunk of a car, drove them around for an hour, dragged them through a forest, tied them to a chair, and drugged them. As the prosecution, we have the burden of proof to prove that Logan Gold is that person. And to do so, we must prove that the three elements of kidnapping have been met. First, that Logan Gold used force or fear to restrain Taylor Alexander. Second, being that Logan Gold moved Taylor Alexander a substantial distance. And third, being that Taylor Alexander did not consent to that movement. To do this, the prosecution will call Taylor Alexander, Deputy Riley Kim, and Dr. A. Forrest to the stand, so that their testimony may be paired with the physical evidence of the case, to bring everything back around to Logan Gold, and show that they are indeed guilty of kidnapping Taylor Alexander. The first step in doing all of this would be showing that Logan Gold had a motive for kidnapping Alexander. To show this motive, the prosecution will call Deputy Riley Kim to the stand. Deputy Riley Kim was the lead investigator of this case and was tasked with collecting all of the physical evidence and questioning the key witnesses of the case, including Logan Gold. During the questioning process, the Gold Standard Inn came into discussion. The Gold Standard Inn is a family hotel which has been run by the Gold family for generations. And while in their interview with Deputy Kim, Logan Gold admitted to the fact that their family hotel means a lot to them. That's a main source of income that they want to pass down to their children when they grow up. Furthermore, Logan Gold has admitted to knowing that the changes that Taylor Alexander wanted to make when they won the Emerald Bend election would end up opening many rental properties in Emerald Bend, which would run the hotel out of business. To top all of those previous statements off, Logan Gold has not been shy about saying they have animosity for Alexander due to their different perspectives and opinions on what the future of Emerald Bend should look like. All of these facts and personal statements made by Logan Gold will be used by the prosecution to show that Gold had a motive for kidnapping Alexander. This would make the next step in proving Logan's guilt, showing that a kidnapping actually took place. To do this, we must show that Taylor Alexander was restrained using force or fear, moved a substantial distance, and had all of that done to them without her consent. And to do this, we would first call Taylor Alexander to the stand. Alexander is the victim of this case. They would be able to testify to the horrible sequence of events which they had experienced on November 11th, 2023. And they would testify to the fact that they were just trying to go for their daily run at 5:30 a.m. when suddenly a pillowcase was put over their head and they were disorientated. In that state of confusion, Taylor Alexander was put into the trunk of a car and driven around for approximately an hour. When they were finally let out of that trunk, it was just to be dragged through a forest, tied to a chair, and subdued with a drug that is publicly available to the public. Dr. Ray Forrest, who is a highly accredited medical practitioner, will attest to the fact that they ran tests on Logan Gold, on Taylor Alexander, and were able to prove that he was indeed drugged, but that they were also still capable of having an accurate recollection of the events which they experienced while being kidnapped. On top of all that, Deputy Riley Kim will be able to attest to the fact that Logan Gold had in their possession a blue dockline rope and the same type of pillowcase that was used to bind and blind Taylor Alexander in the Lakeside Drive property. The prosecution would tie all of this evidence together, alongside witness testimony, to show that the three elements of a kidnapping were indeed met and that a kidnapping most definitely took place on November 11, 2023. This would leave the only responsibility for the prosecution to prove that Logan Gold was the one who perpetrated this crime. And this would be done by showing the timeline of events and how the physical evidence ties Logan Gold to the crime of the scene of the crime. The defense will try and tell you that Logan Gold did not have enough time to kidnap Taylor Alexander. But the facts of the case are that Logan Gold was unaccounted for large periods of time. From the day before the election day to 9:30 a.m., when Logan Gold was seen passing out flyers for 5 minutes by CJ Costley, Logan Gold was completely unaccounted for that whole gap of time. In that gap, at 5:30 a.m., is when Taylor Alexander was kidnapped. We also know that in that time, Alexander was kidnapped and transported using a vehicle, a car. This is important because Deputy Riley Kim will attest to the fact that at the scene of the crime at the Lakeside Drive property, there were tire tracks. Dr. A. Forrest will also be able to attest to the fact that those tire tracks are the same model and create the same tire tread and print as the ones that are found on the tires of Logan Gold's car. The prosecution would tie all of this physical evidence together alongside the timeline to show that Logan Gold was capable and took the time to kidnap Taylor Alexander. All of this evidence would eventually lead to one reasonable conclusion being possible: that Logan Gold kidnapped Taylor Alexander on November 11, 2023. The defense will try and prove Logan Gold's innocence to you. They'll try and convince you of their story, and they'll try and convince you to let Logan Gold walk scot-free. But the prosecution urges you to look at the facts of the case with reason in your mind. Look at the facts of the case and decide on the right outcome of this trial. Do not let the person who kidnapped Taylor Alexander walk free. It is your responsibility to make sure justice is served, and that is why the prosecution urges you to rule in favor of the victim of this trial, in favor of Taylor Alexander, and in favor of the facts of this case, in favor of the law, and in favor of finding Logan Gold guilty of kidnapping Taylor Alexander. Thank you.
9 minutes? Yes!